Welcome everybody to Talking Hats. I am Jody Faith, and it's my privilege to bring you another exciting episode with another fellow who wears many hats in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave with Nehemiah Construction Ministries. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Dave, I remember hearing about Nehemiah Construction a long time ago. I think we were doing the Impact World Tour back in early 2000, and I started 2004, and I started hearing little bits about something you were doing. Now, are you an actual construction worker? Let's talk about what are the hats that you wear. How did Nehemiah Construction even become a thing?
Well, I'm my hats. Yes, I'm married.
Okay.
So a husband. I have 2 kids, so a father, and then I have 6 grandchildren. So
okay.
Grandfather.
Nice.
So, and I'm a heavy-duty mechanic by trade.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I became a Christian that I knew had a gift of being able to look at things and fix them, figure them out.
Okay, so you're talking about just a random motor or a random piece of equipment in a field?
Building a house, doing the concrete work,
okay.
Doing the plumbing.
Okay, so literally every aspect of the construction.
Yeah.
And
so
okay.
It really helps me in the mission field because you never know what you're going to have, especially where we are.
Okay.
Nehemiah Construction, I've been traveling to Kenya now for 21 years.
To Kenya.
And we work way up in the north, in the desert area of Turkana, it's called.
Okay.
And every day there's something new that I have to deal with. And so if you only have one hat, you're going to be a lost soul.
That is awesome to hear that kind of fun little moniker that we use is actually really true for what you're doing. So why Kenya? How did you come to be connected with Kenya? How did that happen?
Well, I started mission work 28 years ago.
Okay.
And I really, I didn't know how it was going to be used and stuff, but when I was in Australia with Youth with a Mission, I knew I wanted to do missions, but I'm not a real reader, studier. I do things with my hands.
Okay.
And so that's what God has got me to do, is use my hands to share the gospel.
Okay.
And I didn't know what that looked like until I got to in the mission field, and there's so much need for groups to come alongside missionaries that are there already to help build or do whatever.
Okay, so you were in Australia. Was that like the Byron Bay YWAM base there, or
this
where
was
were you?
In Perth. We were in
Perth
Perth with my
other
family.
Side of, okay,
Yeah.
as a family.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so our kids were there. Like we've had our kids, we started off in missions. We took our kids with us everywhere.
Okay, so your wife and your children have been part of this project right from the very beginning, before the project even really began.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So,
all right. And then suddenly you were on your way to Kenya?
Well, I had done other missions, because we originally, Nehemiah Construction, I wanted to travel around the world and help missionaries wherever they needed help.
Right.
And I've been in the Amazon jungle.
Okay.
And building a school for orphans. And I've been to Sierra Leone right after the Diamond Wars.
Oh my.
And,
oh my gosh.
That was an experience. I've been to East Timor right after the genocide in 1999, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow. So
all those were building.
So were you with an organization that was finding where they needed help, or were you investigating that yourself? How were you finding out that here's someone in...
I was in the midst of starting Nehemiah Construction.
Okay.
Again, I didn't know how it was supposed to go or anything.
Sure.
I was just, I always like to say I'm just a redneck, just do it.
I love that, though.
Right?
I love that. There's even a place for rednecks in the world, right?
Sure.
And you prove it. No, I think that that's a really important piece in this story, is that you're just a regular guy who has a regular daytime job, but you feel that you're being called to go help people who've already committed their lives to these different places and organizations. And okay.
And then when I got to Turkana, basically, that's where God really broke my heart for the Turkana people.
Okay.
There's no water, just sand and gravel. It looks like the landscape of the moon, maybe. Like it's a desert. And the first few years that we were there, we lived out in tents in the desert with the Turkana people, building them a community center.
Okay.
And that's sort of where it started, because they realized after 3 days that the people didn't need buildings, they needed water. The children were dying because they didn't have water.
Okay.
And so that's the process I started to try and figure out how to bring water to the Turkana people.
Okay.
And it took me a few years.
Because that is a little bit outside of your wheelhouse.
It is.
Right.
And still today, I mean, I could learn how to drill.
Okay.
But I have a fellow that joined us, him and his wife joined Nehemiah, I think it's 8 or 9 years ago now.
Okay.
And
tell us about this person. Who is he?
He's a driller. That's Larry and Joyce Waldorf.
Okay.
And they live in Alaska.
Oh.
And
okay.
And they spend 8 months a year in Kenya.
Okay.
And they take care of the drilling team. And Joyce, basically, her heart is to hospitality. She's just incredible. Like we always used to lose 10 to 20 pounds when we went every trip, and now with Joyce there, nobody loses any weight.
Oh my gosh, because she's making sure everybody's well fed and well watered, right? Those are huge issues when you're taking a team. And you are taking teams now, so tell us a little bit about how that's evolved.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I've always tried to take teams just to introduce them into missions.
Sure.
And even, introduce them to how most of the world lives. Like here in North America, we are very privileged. And I mean that as a people group.
Yes.
And so when you start working in some of these places, and the kids don't, sometimes they don't eat for 3 days. And so it's changing a little bit now because the government has recognized some of that, and so they actually make school free for children, and they even feed them 1 meal a day. So parents are now putting them in school just so they can have 1 meal a day. A lot of,
and that's a change that you've seen over the 20-some years that you've been involved.
I've actually seen quite a few changes. Yeah.
I bet you have.
Yeah.
And obviously to the good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would take me hours and hours to explain the culture, but for the most part, the man is basically the head of everything, and he owns everything. And so basically the first thing on his list is his goats, donkeys, and camels. That's the most important. And then it would be his firstborn son.
Okay.
And then after that, it's everybody else, and he can have 6 or 7 wives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that's different for us, somewhat independent, feminist-minded women in the world. That's an old school philosophy that you're watching and seeing that, walking that out, like every year when you go there. So, is there talking about the government, is there unrest there? Has it been safe for you to be there these last 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be careful when I go and, stuff, and the areas I go to. Even in Turkana, there is still bandits today. Like one of the pastors that I work with, him and his wife got stopped and beaten. That was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
And so there's just one stretch of road, and I try and stay off that as much as I can.
Okay.
But in general, it's fairly stable, except for around election time.
Okay.
The Kenyans are really into politics, and but they still have their tribal backgrounds.
Right.
And so I think that causes a lot of problems in politics.
Okay. So as an organization going in there, are you considered a non-government organization? Do they have NGOs in Kenya? Are you part of that, or really try not to be?
Yeah, I try not to be.
Okay.
Basically an NGO, non-governmental organization. And I see so much, because I've been doing missions for 29 or 28 years, I guess it is.
Yeah.
I've just seen so much waste, and it's a really difficult thing to witness when you see, you know, children are starving to death and they're selling food out of the back of the trucks that says right on it, not for resale. It's for the people, but the people never see it.
Okay, so you've seen a bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
And been inspired to do differently, obviously, which is awesome. So if someone wanted to learn more about you, let's give them your website. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I understand that you've got some video and some stories to be told and shared. So tell us, what is your website?
The website is nehemiahconstruction.ca.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, because I have so many hats on, that's one of the hats that I'm not really good at. So we're behind in stories and pictures and stuff, but it is there. You can get the gist of you know what we do. And
they can actually contact you through the website and get more information if they really want more information, right? So that's where we are all going to start learning more about Nehemiah and the upcoming project. Now, this is an exciting thing for me because I love it when we, the people, become the hands and the feet of the organizations. Now, I have actually been blessed to have been to Kenya, but I was on a 21-day safari between Tanzania and Kenya, and so an entirely different world than what you do when you go there. But if I wanted to help you guys financially, I have the opportunity to get involved specifically with the water run. Tell us how that started.
Yeah. Well, the water run was basically born out of necessity.
Okay.
You know, when we started drilling water wells, we raised the funds for the drilling rig, and that's another story.
Yes.
Right. There's just so many stories that brings everything together.
Yeah.
But the water run was a vehicle to raise money, and all the funds that we raise goes to drill water wells.
Okay.
And so this is actually so it's more than a project. This is our 15th year doing the water run.
Yes.
It's coming up October 12th of this year. It's always on Saturday, Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, which is awesome, right? Just people could do this. I can imagine that you've got people that do this as a family gathering and
And you know, a lot of the girls that helped me organize the water run, they were always saying, "Oh, we should change it to a different date." And I thought, no, that's our date. And you know, they said, "Well, you know, people leave for Thanksgiving." I said, "Yeah, but people come to Thanksgiving too."
That's right.
And we do. We have people come from Saskatchewan, from Edmonton, from Calgary for the water run because they're coming here to visit their family, so they register for the water run.
Well, and in my experience with the shift, especially since COVID, I think a lot of families started looking for places where they could do a bit of a staycation in Alberta. And so one of the things that we're excited about is that your story is going to be shared with people in central Alberta around Red Deer, those kinds of areas. This might be a really exciting place for you guys to come invest some time and effort in Medicine Hat and a global project that is right out of, you know, I mean, I guess Alberta grassroots kind of organization. That's really what you represent. A guy that was just willing to use his hands, a family who decided you were going to use your hands and feet and go where the doors opened, where there was a need, and all of a sudden discovered there's a huge need for water. I mean, I think in Canada we've been reminded a little bit about the need for water with our First Nations communities and whatnot, but you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that in this area of Kenya, like there was literally zero water available.
It's all surface water.
Okay.
And so what happens there is, you know, after it rains, well, in March of 2023, it hadn't rained significantly for 4 years. Like there would be 5 drops coming out of the sky. I don't even think they hit the ground, sort of thing. And then all of a sudden it starts raining, and they have water pooled on the surface, but it disappears after 3 days. And so then they start digging holes in the dried up riverbeds, and you know, the next day it's dry again, so they dig deeper and they dig deeper, and I've seen them as deep as 20 feet deep or more. And what happens there is usually there's a cave in. Someone's down in the hole, and they just move over and start do the process all again. And the water is so contaminated, like, I've got pictures of it, and you hold the water up and you can see actual organisms swimming in the water, and they just drink it down, and they're all, they have stomach problems and stuff. And so now with our drilling, we just finished our 130th water well.
130?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Dave.
And so if you look at the significance of that, like, we're helping over 100,000 people,
oh my goodness.
From just this small beginning, and God says, go to Kenya and build a building. And we just been, when I speak at churches or whatever, I always talk about the small things that we do.
Sure.
Is what God uses to do great things.
Wow, and that's a remarkable thing. It actually is wanting to choke me up, just the thought of that, because it wasn't your intention.
No.
At all.
And that's what I tell people, if you would have told me 30 years ago, Dave, you're gonna go to Kenya and you're gonna impact the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, I would have called you crazy. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly what happened.
And all because he took you to the right place, right? I think that's, I love that. I mean, I can just envision a whole bunch of Canadians and perhaps Americans coming back 15 pounds lighter and just weary and tired.
I should sell the trip as a diet plan, maybe.
Right? But, to go there with this really great idea that you were just gonna, build a building, and all of a sudden to realize there's no water here. Like, we gotta, and I think that's oftentimes, and I mean no judgment or to be rude at all, but I think a lot of times we go and we're so focused on what we think we're gonna do, we just won't change our position or whatever, only to discover in this sort of situation, like, that was just the first step for you to get there, to see a need, and then to start building a community that cared about that.
Right.
It's remarkable. So you primarily, you're doing your advertising to like a church community. Are there business people that are supporting you? How is the water run changing, your support system? Because I imagine, yes, 15 years into this, it's the main piece of what's helping to fund over almost 150 water wells. It's amazing how it must have changed the landscape, right?
Well, and it is, and again, Larry Faldorf, the guy that lives in Kenya with his wife, that's what he says. Basically, the water run is the avenue that provides all the little things that support doesn't come in for.
Sure.
Right? And so it's, it's not only drilling water wells, but now it's helping with education, and it's, there's just different things that it helps along with. Mm-hmm. And but we do have great donors, and but again, with everything else, we have grown so much. Like, now we have 25 school kids that we have in high school and college.
Oh, okay.
And we support, 30 pastors maybe.
So again, back to the original, you wanted to come alongside the people that were already living there.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to support them in whatever they were doing and whatever their needs were.
Yeah.
So you've done that, but that's grown to include, how broad of an area is this in Turkana where you're working?
It is about the size of southern Alberta.
Oh my gosh.
Turkana, yeah. It's
okay.
It's the biggest
area
and province, whatever you want to call it, but it's the biggest in all of Kenya. Excuse me.
So has it been, like, have you ever had trouble, aside from the bandits that might be on the side of the road? Is the government supporting you? Like, is that a challenge? Like,
well, no, the government doesn't support us, and the corruption really affects us.
Okay. So you have to be very careful if you're sending stuff over, that you almost have to take it yourself to get it where it's going to go. These are stories we've heard all our lives, right?
Yeah. And, hey, don't get me wrong. I think Canada has its own corruption to deal with too.
Sure.
But, so because we're sort of on our own there and stuff like this, we yeah, we have to watch what we're doing and
Okay.
who we're talking to and stuff.
So it's good to have feet on the street over there.
Yeah.
And what's your goal for the water run? How many people actually participate in this race?
Well, last year, I think was our biggest year. I think we had 330,
Okay.
somewhere's in there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, this year we're preparing for at least 330, but you just never know.
There you go. So is it an actual, do I have to come out and run or can I walk?
Oh, yes, walk, run,
Okay.
bring your family.
Because it is a
No
little
pets,
intimidating
please.
for people like me that really don't want to
Yeah,
run anywhere
no.
ever. I mean, I might run if there was a really great sale on somewhere.
Actually, I have a good friend that he's turning 100 on October 12th,
Oh,
and he's still active everywhere. He came to Kenya with me when he was 85 years old.
oh my goodness.
And so I'm going to ask him to come and be the grand marshal of the water run this
Aw,
year. So
that's wonderful. Okay, so let's clarify. So yes to families, yes to children, yes to walking, running,
Yeah.
whatever. Pets?
no pets.
No pets. And
Yeah.
this is important. So reminder, no pets for this one. What is it going to look like? Where do you start? Let's maybe back up. How do I start? By getting registered for this? How am I going to do that?
So you basically to register, you go right to the waterrun.ca, and it'll bring you to a page where you want to register, and then it brings you to a new page called Race Roster. And
Okay.
they take care of all the details on Race Roster.
And so we want to make sure people actually
Yeah.
maybe bring their clan. So is there a cost attached to me signing up?
Yes, and I can't remember right off the top
That's
of my head.
okay.
I think it's $50 or maybe $55 for adults and
Okay.
$30 for kids.
Okay. No worries. So there's a commitment
Yeah.
to actually spending some money just to get involved.
Yeah.
And then am I looking for sponsors? Am I
Yes.
going to, like back in the day when we would go skating at school when we were little guys, and for every time you went around the
Yeah.
rink. So same idea for this, right?
Yeah, and that's what we do is we actually give the prizes out for the people that raise the most funds.
Okay.
And like that's what I tell people. I don't care how fast you run. How much funds can you bring in for water wells?
There you go. There
Right.
you go. So it's
So-
really about raising money and continuing this work. That's amazing
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that's going to happen that day? What time does the race? Is it in the morning usually or afternoon?
Yeah.
Like how
no,
do you?
it's the race starts at 11.
Okay.
And sometimes we send out the 10Kers, people doing 10K.
Oh, so
like a
we can
few-
decide how far we want to go.
Yeah, 3, 5, and 10K.
Oh, okay.
And
All right.
we'll send them out a little bit sooner because it takes them a little bit longer
Sure.
and stuff. But it's right at about 11 we take off
Okay. And where do you start usually?
at the Viner Center.
Oh,
Start
okay.
and finish at the Viner Center,
Oh, nice.
which we
So
found.
do we get to go into the Viner Center? Is that a
yeah.
kind of a clubhouse for you that day,
well,
or how does that work?
actually, truth be told, we've always had great weather for the water run,
Okay.
and so we have an outside patio with
Okay.
barbecue, and we do a barbecue and stuff afterwards for everybody.
Oh my gosh, because it can be a little. I only know this because my birthday is October 6th. Sometimes the weather in October, beginning of Thanksgiving, can be a little nasty.
Yeah, well, we've experienced that. The breast cancer run used to be 1 week before us,
Okay.
and there was a foot of snow on the ground. And when we had the water run, the snow was gone, and it was about probably 22 degrees out.
Oh my. So you've been very lucky that way. That is awesome. All right, Dave. So what are you hoping to raise for funds? Do you have goals? If there are right now people at home that want to make a donation, they believe that helping this grassroots project that is literally impacting think about that, guys, like 100,000 plus people in an area of the world that quite sadly I know nothing about except what I've learned today. That's something, just that's grown through your heart and your hard work here in southern Alberta is impacting the world. How do they make a donation to you?
Well, I can my address, or you can go right to the Nehemiah Construction page.
Okay. Do you know your mailing address if they wanted to send you a check?
I do. It's all checks out to Nehemiah Construction.
Okay.
And my address is Box 23029, Medicine Hat, Alberta.
Box
23029. Yeah.
Here in Medicine Hat, what's your postal code?
T1B4C7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an amount in mind?
Well, we never want to go down, but I think last year we were at 88,000.
Okay.
We raised.
Okay.
1 year, I think for our 10th anniversary, we raised 125,000.
Wow.
So
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so one thing that I would really like to touch on is we've had a donor, an anonymous donor, I don't know who he is,
Okay.
but he stepped forward and basically has approached the Great Commission Foundation, who does all my books. They do
Okay.
all my books. And he said basically if we raise $50,000 by August 31st, he will donate $50,000.
He's going to match 50?
Yeah.
Wow.
So even if you want to send a check into Nehemiah right now, you get double your money.
That
Double
is
the
an
bang.
amazing thing. I love that. I love that. And that, an anonymous donor wants to do that is just got to bless your hearts too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What does it cost to put up a water well in Turkana?
Well, it really differs. I have a lot of guys talk to me about Haiti.
Okay.
Or India.
Sure.
And they're talking about $1,800. Well, here where we are, because of where we are situated, the difficulty, even transportation of materials, anything we transport up to where we are is $2,000.
Right.
And so a water well is I would say between 10,000. And I've seen them all the way up to 30,000.
Is that right? Just depending on the area and what's involved in getting the stuff
the
there.
formation, everything just throws a curve at us.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we've had a lot of people, experts in the water field, and they're telling us, well, why are you guys having so much trouble? Well, come up and see.
Come and check it out.
Yeah, and so when they come up and they see, they think, oh my goodness, we've never even seen a place like this. But
Okay.
I'd say, out of those 130 wells, we still drilled them, but I would say 10%, maybe 12% are dry holes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a lot better than
Sure.
most,
Sure.
right?
And it's just part of water well
It is.
science. I mean, we know that. We've been hearing stories about, dry wells since, 100 years ago when pioneers were trying to settle this land and how heartbreaking that was right here in Canada. So we understand that challenge. So how many people are going to go with you the next time you go?
Well, there's 3 of us already going,
Okay.
and I'm hoping for a couple more. But
And when are you going?
I'm leaving end of October, beginning of November, and I'll stay till probably December 4th or 5th, I think.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you know somebody who has a heart to change the world, we're talking about a real hands and feet opportunity with Nehemiah Construction. The fact that water is so important. I think how many of us have ever really had to do without water? We just don't understand. As you said, we're so privileged in this nation. Now, I understand that you do have sponsors outside of Medicine Hat and throughout Alberta. And I'd asked originally, is there another water well fundraising water run in the works? Have you heard anything about more? And you said you just got an interesting call.
Well, yeah. About 3 weeks ago, my wife and I were traveling, and I met a young guy in 2000, I guess it was. And he was doing missions in Perth at the same time we were. Okay. He was single, and but we sort of took him under our wing, and he hung out with us and stuff. And so I hadn't seen him in 24 years.
Okay.
And so I phoned him up and went and met his wife and 5 children.
Oh my. Okay.
And he was just so excited about the prospects of maybe bringing a water run to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay.
And so we've been sort of back and forth on that, and I think currently he is looking for a team to help him out with that.
Okay.
And it wouldn't probably be until summer of 2025.
Sure.
But
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, these things take time, but that's exciting. So I'm assuming that you've got awareness and sponsorship that's already coming out of Alaska and area because of your connection to your feet on the street, right?
Yeah.
And so is that a challenge, having stuff globally, like internationally?
No, because the Great Commission Foundation, again, who does all our books and everything, they have Canadian and they have U.S.
Okay.
U.S. is based out of Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And the Canadian one is Abbotsford, and now they've just started another one in Ontario.
Okay. So it's not an issue that way. So that is so cool. Well, it's been an amazing day visiting with Dave and learning about the many hats that you wear, and how being willing to work within the giftings and interests that you had has opened up a whole world, not only of experience and stuff for you and your family and those that support you, but also for an entire people group that are benefiting from what's happening right here in Medicine Hat and Southern Alberta. We wish you well, and let's just remind our audience one more time, when is the water run?
It's October 12th, Saturday, Thanksgiving weekend.
And if you aren't a runner, you can still take your donations there that day. I'm sure that would be appreciated. You could just come out and watch the send off and be part of encouraging those who are running, walking, doing whatever they need to do. So thank you so much for joining us here on Talking Hats with Jody Faith. I want to say special thanks to Rogers Television for allowing us to do this right here in our local area. Community TV is so important, and so are you. Thanks, and have a great day.